bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game.
Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Good evening, Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Woo, man, today's Tuesday, December 5th. 339 days into the new year, just 26 days left. That's right, tonight we are live from our bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. And I would like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black for KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. What is cracking, everybody? How you doing? All right. Man. Today was a very surreal day. I'll get to all of that in just a bit, of course, because above us, Burbank is full of smoke, ashes. We have got active fires burning around us right now as we broadcast. I'll get to all of that in just a bit, but the show must go on. Now, we're not going to do anything unsafe. If we have to bail, if we have to evacuate, we will. But until that point, let's try to get to the end of the show, because tonight we have very special guest, Linda Moulton Howe. All right, she's back with us. And tonight we're going to do a variety of things, but we're going to do a 2017 year in review kind of wrap-up show, because so much stuff happened this year, and things are going down right now with Linda and her reporting and her research. So we're going to discuss all of that tonight, and we'll take a look also into the future in 2018. And tomorrow night, everybody, David Icke will be here live from England, and we're going to discuss his new book, Everything You Need to Know But Have Never Been Told. That will be tomorrow night. Thursday is another Fader night, and our No More Fake News room with John Rappaport, followed by open lines all night long. All right, you can follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio, Facebook, YouTube, everything is Fade to Black, JChurch Radio. And you can go right now, follow, like, and subscribe. Tonight, we, because this is a special broadcast, we averted disaster today. More on that in just a bit. But because we are broadcasting in the middle of these fires here that are going on in and around Los Angeles and above us right now, we decided to broadcast on YouTube. I want the widest reach that we can out to our listeners tonight listening live. And it's been a crazy day. The news coverage, what is going on and in and around Los Angeles, we go through this every single year. We do. We go through the Santa Ana winds. We go through, a drought. We do live in the desert. And things always catch on fire. And even though it's pretty cool temperatures outside, that has nothing to do with the fact that there's like zero humidity, dry winds, that are blasting somewhere between 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. And every year, this is what results. Things catch on fire. So that's what we're dealing with right now. Now, we decided to go ahead and broadcast live tonight. It wasn't about, let's take risk and the show must go on. It's not about that. We prepped and got everything ready. And if we have to bail tonight, we will. It's that simple. If we have to evacuate, we will. But our house is cool. The flames and fires moved around it today. You know what? I'll get to that in a second. There's just so much going on right now. It's just absolutely incredible. Any questions or comments during the show tonight, just use hashtag F2BQ. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can do that. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. All of the chat rooms are open over at Spreaker and, of course, KGRA, The Planet. You can also email throughout the show, Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Now, we have been dealing with these fires burning all over Southern California. And as I speak to you tonight, we've got a huge fire burning right now above us. They're calling that, it's right next to Burbank. They're calling that the Sylmar fire. It's just in the mountains right here behind us. And Sylmar's the next city above us. There's another one kind of in between called Sunland. And then down below that, there's a place called Hanson Dam where there's a golf course and stuff, and that is in between us and Sylmar. And that right now, the fire has now gotten down into that and is burning on that golf course. Pretty crazy. Now, that's that fire, right? Just north of that in Santa Clarita, that fire is out of control. It's got 5% containment right now. It's now exceeded 5,000 acres. The one above us, when I say above us, I just mean like right here on top of us, that's 11,000 acres burned, 0% contained. Okay? So throughout the day today, 30 houses have burnt there. I have no idea how many homes have burned out in Ventura. That is also 0% contained. 50,000 acres, over 70 square miles have burned. Today, the fire moved 13 miles from Ojai, and I'm looking at it right now here in the bunker, and it is now right at the 101 freeway and the beach. And looking at it now, it's right there. They're going to have to close down the 101. They got to make decisions about that right now. And the mountains that are there, when you drive through, it's one of the most picturesque, beautiful places ever. And the reason for that is the gorgeous mountains covered with trees and vegetation, right? And that is just completely, I'm looking at it right here. There it is. Completely out of control. It is just a ring of fire that is tens of miles long, this ring of fire. And it's just horrific to see. So that's what's going on right now. This morning, okay, so let's back up. So last night, during the broadcast, as we started to kick things off, it was probably at about 5 o'clock yesterday. I could be a little bit off about this, but the wind started to kick up, and I was listening to the warnings that were happening on the radio, and they were talking about these 50-mile-an-hour winds. And as soon as they announced that on the radio, on the news, and if you live here in Southern California, it's the first thing that pops in your mind. The first thing is fires. Okay, who's going to be first? What's going to go down? And so there you go. So we started the show last night, and the winds were really out of control. And I said that last night on the show. I said, okay, here we go. This is some crazy, crazy weather that is going down. And then all of Southern California started losing power, including us. And so after losing power 2 times during the show, a couple of times while we were trying to restart the computers and some other things that were just going down here, routers and all kinds of things, they all have to get rebooted. we decided that there's just no way we could continue with the show. So we go home, close up the bunker, and we go home. And power's on and off all night long. And the wind, stuff bouncing off of our house. You could just hear stuff all night long, house shaking in the wind. It was rough, right? And so I get up early this morning, and I go outside to check out our house to make sure things were intact. And I smell smoke, right? And I'm like, man, what's that? Now, and I knew about the fire in Ventura, so I am thinking this morning, wow, the winds, that's 75 miles away, and it's carried, that's a lot of smoke. That's what I was thinking. What I didn't know, that over my shoulder on the other side of our house, if I had gone out to the front, I would have seen the hills burning and the fire coming at us. But I didn't. I go in the house. I'm like, man, what's going on? And it was our daughter. She's out in front of the house, and she immediately FaceTimes. This is. I was like, oh my goodness. And so it's been like that all day long. Evacuation orders, things. I immediately called Linda. And had a conversation with her. I said, I don't know if the show's going to go down tonight. I don't know what's going on. And of course, it was all, be safe, do what you got to do. If we do the show, great. If we don't, great. But it's family and things first. And she's right. So we had to ride this out. So we got everything ready here in Southern California. Of course, we have food. We have new manna. And what a better, I cannot say enough about Numanna food storage. Because, and I really mean this, you never know when an emergency is about to happen, right? And yesterday, things are cool. You wake up this morning, and it's Armageddon, right? The smoke, the ash, the fires, the flames, evacuation, planes over, things, water drop. It was off the hook, out of control. The smell, you couldn't breathe. And so anyway, I'm going down the checklist. Food, Numanna, yes. And I'm so happy about that. Batteries, flashlights, water, yes. Check. Animals are ready. Car, ready. Are we good to go? Right? And so after we got all of that stuff out of the way, then I went and got backup APCs, big ones for the studio, for the bunker. Got those and rewired. So now all of that, and we just kind of kicked back and thought, okay, now we need to ride this out and see what this fire is going to do. And so it kind of avoided going south. It was just basically going west. I'm talking about the fire. So it went past us. And it's sitting there now. It's still not contained, but it's staying in back of the mountains somewhat. It's come down into the valley, into the golf course. So anyway, so there's that. Meanwhile, throughout the day today, Santa Clarita, that fire bursted up, and that is not that far from here, and that's going on. That's at Magic Mountain, right up the freeway, right up the 5, and that took off and got out of control. That is, again, 5% contained, so we've got that. Spot fires throughout the valley, Porter Ranch and different places. San Bernardino, they had their thing today, and of course Ventura County. The news today, the live video all day today is somebody's house burning to the ground. One after another. It wasn't one, it wasn't two. I have no idea, but it's in the hundreds and hundreds right now. We have no idea. Entire neighborhoods are gone in Ventura. Right here where we live, 30 houses burnt down today, and there's no telling what's going to happen overnight and what we're going to see in the morning. Waking up this morning like we did, you go to bed one way and you wake up and your day is just flipped upside down like it was today. And again, I have been running, and so is Rita, since about 7 o'clock, and it's 7 o'clock at night. So no breaks or anything today, just to get through and make sure that our families and those around us were safe. So, this morning, this is what kind of tipped things off. So while the news of the fire and the smoke overhead, we posted all the pictures on Facebook and Twitter. So you guys have seen that. I shot some video today too. I just decided not to post it. But with all of that, I'm out in front of my house, and we had trash cans that were blowing all over. And I looked down, and there's shingles on the ground. And I was like, oh, no, not the roof. And I walk out, go across the street, look back, and our roof was fine. And I look over at my neighbor's house, and his roof is gone. It's just like, man, it's like that. So he's got great guy too, him and his family, and he's got to come home from work and deal with that. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. I mean, they are talking about these winds going on to Thursday and beyond. It's only Tuesday, and these fires are all 0% contained. So, yeah. Okay, so that's where we are at now. Last night when the power went out in the bunker a couple of times, it was certainly a sign of things to come. We did not just bail on the show last night, something came unplugged. It was a very, very, very serious weather situation that was going on here. And it was a warning. It was an absolute warning. When I say, it's windy outside, okay, well, I hope that you understand now when I'm talking about things like this. Yeah, here are some pictures that Mark Tarana that we posted today. I'll go ahead and retweet these now. But there you go. There it is. That's what it looked like from the front of our house today. As you can see, it's just we're on the north side of Burbank, and this is the southern flank of the fire, and it was right there, man. Right there. Whew, man. Okay, so that's what we've been dealing with. The good news is we are safe. That's the most important thing. I don't want anybody out there to think that we're just broadcasting tonight. Make sure that the show must go on and we're doing that. No. Everything is safe. Everything is cool. If anything goes nuts and we got to evacuate, we will, and we'll shut this thing down and go and do what we have to do. Okay? All right. Now, thank goodness for River Moon Coffee. I'm serious. River Moon got us through today. Let me tell you. All right. On a really good thing. Last week, I was just in one of those moods, man. And when it comes to Amazon, I haven't really bitten the Amazon apple and dove into the addiction. But I got to tell you something. Amazon makes it way too easy to order stuff. And I found out last week. So I was just goofing around. I was like, espresso machines. Yeah. Click, click, click. Espresso machine delivered. And now, here in the bunker, all I have to do is it's always hot. It's always running. And it's it. It's not even noise. It's you just press the button and you've got you got to clean the thing and tap it out. But if I wanted to do 10 espressos in a row, I could do it. Man, it's just, man, do I love my River Moon coffee. Espresso grind, fade to black blend. Oh, man, get yourself in this. We got a DeLonghi, I think. So good. So that's what I'm drinking right now. Big mug of espresso. Okay. Tonight, Linda Moulton Howe is here. She is live, and she'll be with us in a few short minutes. I want to remind everybody a few things going on. Our next event will be the Conscious Life Expo with Linda Moulton Howe, February 9th through the 12th, 2018 at the LAX Hilton. Tickets and info are over at jimmychurchradio.com. You can head straight over there, click on the Conscious Life Expo banner. It'll take you straight to their website where tickets, info, food, lodging, all of that information is there. Friday night at the Conscious Life Expo, I will be hosting the Ancient Aliens panel, and Linda is on that panel every year, and it's great. I think this is the third year now that I've done this panel over there, and this year we have Linda, we have David Wilcock, Corey Good, Jay Widener, and William Henry, all stars on Ancient Aliens. And there you go. So Linda will be here tonight, and she will be at the Conscious Life Expo coming up February 9th through the 12th. Go and get your tickets. We would love to see you there. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. We have over 750 archive shows, custom apps, Apple, Android. All you got to do is go to the Apple Store, Fade to Black right there, click, boom, download. You can do the same thing over at the Google Store. Download your software. Head over to Libsyn, $2 a month. Get your account done. $2 a month. And you've got archives. Somebody sent me an email last week, and in the email it said, I don't know, it can't be right, but the email said something like, it would take 15 years to watch everything in your archive. And I stopped and thought about that. I was like, 15 years, that's a long time. And then just realized we've only been on the air for 4, right? Is this our 4th year, 5th year? It can't be 15. But I suppose if you did one a week, yeah, that would be 12 years. If you did it once a week, it would be 12 years of shows. And you get all of that for just $2 a month, okay? And you can also become a Fade or Not. If you go over to our membership section on our site, you can do whatever you want. You can just become a Fade or Not, no charge, right? And you get the bunker cam on Thursday nights and an email to me and all kinds of stuff. You can go all the way up and do whatever you want. Commercial-free downloadable archives. You can get autographed hats and T-shirts and all of that fun stuff. Become a Fade or Not today. Help support the show. And while you are over on our website, don't forget to visit all of our sponsors. This is Christmas. It's December. So you have the opportunity here with all of our sponsors to get the gifts that keep on giving. Life Change Tea, right? Think about that. River Moon Coffee. Wouldn't you I know you know somebody that would love to get some Fade to Black blend on Christmas. New Pharma. Get somebody some relief, right? The foundation, the drops. That's what I do. I do the drops from New Pharma. That's a great gift. The Numana Food Storage. Give food to somebody. Emergency food supplies. Go to Numana, $100 Christmas gift, and you are going to get an autographed Fade to Black T-shirt. Think about that. Bearing Optics. You know somebody that wants night vision. It's Christmas. Go visit all of our sponsors and get those Christmas gifts, the cool ones. And if you want to, T-shirts and all of that from the Fade to Black website, I think you can also gift a subscription, right? You can do that too as well over on our membership area. Okay, let's get this show cracking. Linda's going to be here in just a second. I do want to say happy birthday to today, Little Richard. Little Richard is 85 years old. Okay, Naomi says 766 episode by 3 hours, 2,298 hours. That is 95.75 days. Yeah, 24 hours a day. Could you imagine that? 24 hours a day for 96 days. That's I think they deem that illegal. That's some kind of illegal torture. That's like waterboarding, forcing somebody to listen to Fade to Black 24 hours a day. Little Richard today is 85. On this day in history, OTD, 1945, it went down because at 2:10 p.m., 5 U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers comprising Flight 19, take off from Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station in Florida on a routine 3-hour training mission. Flight 19 never returned. It was lost forever in the Bermuda Triangle. Fader fact. This has been vetted. Fader fact. The world's most expensive phone number was auctioned in Qatar. That phone number was 666-6666. And it sold for $1.75 million in 2006. That, my friends, is a Fader fact. Ah, man, think about that. 666-6666. $2 million. Who? Qatar, too, as well. That's the crazy thing. The previous record holder before that was sold in Beijing. That number was 88888888. $270,000. I can kind of see that. I can kind of 8888888888. All right. 800 number, I guess, for your corporation. Easy enough to remember. 888-8888-8888, right? Whatever. But 666-6666 for almost $2 million. Who's got that number? And it's in Qatar. You could probably dial that number. What is, you know what? Let's think about this for a second. Let's think about this. What is Qatar's country code? Get the country code, you can dial that phone number. That means somebody will pick it up in Qatar. Should we do that? I can. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Linda Moulton Howe is here. We're going to do a nice, calm, cool, and collected 2017 wrap-up show. We're going to look forward to 2018. She's got all kinds. I don't want to know that 6666 person. And we're going to talk about the booms all around the world. There's more to that story than just the noise. We're going to do all that and much more tonight. Linda Moulton Howe. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roast it to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Go Beckley Teppy.
So are you tired of being tired? Well, then it's time to get the tea. Hey, it's Lisa here to tell you about this all-natural, all-organic tea I've been drinking that has had great results for over 20 years. It's called Life Change Tea, and it's specially formulated to help detoxify and cleanse your kidneys, liver, colon, and blood all at once. The colon is one of the most ignored organs in the human body. The faster that waste is eliminated from the body, the less time that waste sits in our intestines, spreading toxins toxins to our bloodstream. This tea helps cleanse chemicals caused by outside intruders from our entire digestive system. And get this, weight loss can be a side effect. And with continued use of the tea, you can experience clearer, healthier, younger-looking skin, increased energy, and a happier outlook on life. So if you're tired of being tired, get the Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. And like me, you'll be glad you did.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Win big with KGRA this summer. Tickets and hotel accommodations to the biggest conferences, autographed books and DVDs, chances to win all-inclusive conference cruises, and private dinners with your favorite KGRA hosts. Click the contest tab at KGRAradio.com for your chance to win big this summer. Your contact for the best alternative talk radio on the planet. KGRAradio.com.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by Life Change Tea. Starting with their super strength tea, we use Life Change Tea products every day around here, including Coral Sea, G.I. Joy, Pine Bark, and Moringa Drops. We do it all. Change your life. Go to Life Change Tea right now. Click on the banners over at JimmyChurchRadio.com. Use the promo code FADER. You're going to get free shipping. Our guest tonight, Linda Moulton Howe. Always love it when she's on the show, and we always seem to, do this at this time of year with Linda, too, as well. And she's a graduate of Stanford University with a master's degree in communication. She has devoted her documentary, film, television, radio, and writing and reporting career to productions concerning science, medicine, and the environment. Ms. Howe has received local, national, and international awards, including 3 regional Emmys, a National Emmy nomination, and a Station Peabody Award. She produces, reports, and edits earthfiles.com. You need to start off your day every day over there at Earth Files. She has her own radio program with John Burroughs with us over on KGRA. She's on Coast to Coast AM every single month with George Norrie. Ancient Aliens, of course, since its first season. And I love doing this, so I need to take a deep breath. She's traveled to Venezuela, Peru, Brazil, England, Norway, France, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Yugoslavia, Turkey, Ethiopia, Kenya, Egypt, Australia, Japan, Canada, Mexico, the Yucatan, and Puerto Rico for research and productions. In addition to all of her research on Earth Files, by the way, she now has a new series on Gaia, and it's called Truth Hunters, and it's amazing. You need to go and check that out. And tonight, we're going to take a look at the events of 2017, her latest research, and of course, we'll take a look at 2018. I would love to welcome back to Fade to Black, the one and only Linda Moulton Howe. Linda, good evening.
Oh, thank you, Jimmy, very much, and my blessings to you and to everybody in the Los Angeles, Ventura County area, because I've been trying to keep track of what has been happening on this fire, and tonight the mayor of Los Angeles even is concerned because in addition to what has been happening in Ventura where you are, in Los Angeles they have at least 500 firefighters that saw a fire go from 4,000 acres to 11,000 in just a few hours, and that the 50,000 acres where you are that has been covered 78 square miles, it grew from nothing to this blaze that has taken out 78 square miles in 19 hours.
Yes.
So this is like dry kindling that's exploding.
Yes, and actually it's the opposite. We're not in Ventura. We're where the mayor has been all day. We're at the photographs that I sent you We're at that 11,000 acre fire right here in Los Angeles. Yeah, we're in Burbank. And
okay.
And it now this is what the audience doesn't know, Linda, that you and I at the crack of dawn this morning, got on the phone to discuss the show tonight, and I said, Linda, I need to tell you what's going on, right? And I didn't know. Rita and I slept through the night. The power was going on and off, and things were getting crazy. But we woke up this morning to it's a war zone. It's a war. Yeah. That's the only way I can describe it. It is completely out of control. We are safe. That's the good news. The morning is going to bring what it brings, but. Right now, we're okay. Okay, so that's the main thing. The family's safe. The house is cool. We're in the bunker. We have food. We have water. We have flashlights, backup power, and we have you. And here we go. So.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to hear that because by this afternoon, Governor Jerry Brown had declared a state of emergency in Ventura County, and he had over 1,000 firefighters battling what's known now as the Thomas Fire northwest of Los Angeles. And Governor Brown said on television, quote, "This fire is very dangerous and spreading rapidly, and it is critical that residents stay ready to evacuate immediately if told to do so." And already tonight, at least 27,000 people have evacuated.
And this is the crazy thing, Linda. Wrap your mind around this. Your scientific mind. Everything is 0% contained. That's it. There's no containment here.
Right, and it's what I meant when I said it's like kindling. And if you go back into this year of 2017, that in the what would have been July and August, that there were, I'm just getting my notes to make sure I give the temperatures right.
Right.
There were days and days in July of near 100-degree Fahrenheit over and over and over that severely was drying out the Mountain West. And then from there, it moved to the Northwest and the Pacific Northwest. And they had, remember, those just unrelenting high, also near 100-degree Fahrenheit temperatures, which was very unusual for the Pacific Northwest. And then by the second week in October of 2017 in Sonoma County, north of San Francisco, 22 people died, 200 were reported missing, 3,000 homes plus were destroyed, and Santa Rosa's wine country has now suffered $1.2 billion in damages. And now we can add the still unresolved, evolving horror that is happening in Ventura and that fire in Los Angeles. And when you say why is this happening, it is because we are in a state of what is called global warming and the relationship to that. And that there have been science reports just in the last couple of weeks. One of them in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, you can't get more credible than that, was about global warming is already having an effect on wildfires in a lot of places, and they expect that it will become worse and worse. And that there is a group that is at the University of Idaho, and they have also been reporting, and they said in the last 60 to 90 days that this is broken records in terms of warmth. We had in the Albuquerque Journal today, on the front page, it was November was the warmest on record for Albuquerque, New Mexico, the warmest. And this is what, as you go through, and if you do Googles on why are there wildfires, what is happening, it is science paper after science paper and commentary about excessive heat that we have been getting in longer periods. And even if there was a lot of rain in 2016, which there was, it gets dried out so quickly when you get sustained temperatures in the 90s approaching 100. And right now, if we don't get a lot of rain coming out of this winter into the spring, Jimmy, I cannot imagine what the west coast of the United States would be like as we get into summer and fall of 2018. And this is something that I think we have to just stand up and face, that we have turned some kind of a corner in the climate and what is going to continue to happen, and that means that humans and political systems everywhere up and down the West Coast are now going to have to start thinking in terms of what to do to reduce the ability for fire to start and spread where there's populations. Just like on the East Coast and in Florida, they're going to have to cope with the new reality that they're going to continue to be flooded. And Miami is already being flooded for so many weeks out of each year. So you've got two coasts with two different problems, but it's all related to global warming.
Isn't it amazing how, do you remember in your journalistic career, do you ever remember weather dominating the headlines like it has over the last 6 months?
No, and if you go to like the Atlantic and the New York Times and some of the heavy hitters in journalism, they have been doing reports about why and what are the worries and where are we headed, and they're in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. They are basically underscoring that we are dealing with a human-caused increase in global warming. And when people argue, well, up and down throughout the ages and the centuries, the planet has been warm, the planet has been cold, 3 or 4 times it's been an icy snowball. But here's the point that is left out in those arguments. There is no time in the record of this planet where we have gone up in temperature rise within 1 century at the rate and the rapidity, and it's related at the same time, the parallel track. It's the compression of time where all this is taking place. And when you look at graphs from the 20th century to the 21st century, in 100 years, it's a spike. And there are these graphs at NOAA and NASA and other websites that will show you how it spikes up. It's the rapidity. We're doing this to ourselves in a very compressed moment in time in the Earth. And that is why it is crucial that we try to do something to address CO2 and methane emissions.
Is it too late? Have we gone too far with Mother Nature now, pushing this, that maybe we can't even reverse things? What do you think?
Well, I had Kevin Trenberth from NCAR, the National Center for Atmospheric Research up in Boulder, on Earth Files and Coast to Coast. It was starting at the period of time when there were the fires that were starting to spread from Montana and Canada, which, by the way, Canada had the worst fire season in British Columbia ever.
That's right.
Ever on record this year. And so I went to Kevin Trenberth that I have interviewed before, and he's one of the single most respected atmospheric physicists in the world, quite literally. A wonderful, wonderful scientist. And I asked him exactly that question. And you hear he's very measured, he's very wise, he tries to make every word count in terms that it has data to back up what he says. But when I ask him that question, is it too late? There was a pause. And what you then hear from him and from other scientists is they don't want to concede that we can't do something about it. But they always say that for the rest of this century, it is going to be constant change that is going to be impacted by increasing global climate warming. And that means that in a way the answer is we can't stop it at this point. unless we did a huge, I'm going to say we put a huge stop on CO2 and methane, and I don't know how humans would ever do that. But we have to start trying to take it really seriously globally and at least make an effort so that it isn't going to continue to spike and get a thicker, what's called the blanket of CO2 and methane. If the blanket gets thicker and thicker because we're not trying to restrict, then the rate of warming where we live on the surface of the planet, it accelerates. It's really just kind of a function of physics and math. And it's happening. And so the scientists would like to encourage everybody to feel like that we have still options, and that instead of getting out of climate agreements with the world, that we should be trying to lead. How are we going to get a handle on having a progressive and exciting future to the end of this century while still being, I guess I want to say, saviors of our own selves and our own planet by taking this seriously and trying to come up with ways that we could cut back CO2 and methane. And right now, from everything that I read, the people that I do interviews with, it's more and more frustration because there are some political groups in other parts of the world that are really trying hard. And then there are other large countries, and this one's included now, that are not on the, we'll say, the same square of trying to get collaboration country to country to take this seriously and come up with increasing numbers of ways that we can stop contributing so much to the atmosphere. And there is both the question and, in a way, a kind of mystery. Are we humans for the rest of the 21st century? Are we going to be with kind of blinders on because we don't want the hard facts to be real? Are we going to go forward the rest of this century in a kind of denial where everybody says, well, the United States had a period of time where they burned coal and it's their responsibility, and now we need to burn coal? We can't do that anymore. It can't be the provincial, tribal approach to what we're doing with energy and contributing to the atmosphere. We've got to turn into a planet sort of one species that understands some of the physics and the consequences of what we do as a 7.2 billion and expanding civilization instead of tribal warfare. And if looking over at a neighbor and saying, you got to burn coal, so I want to burn coal. We have to get past that in order to survive. And that, I think, in the answer to your question, and it's what Kevin Trenberth tried to deal with the complexities of this, that we are past the point of being on a planet where we could live as they did 100 years ago without worrying about consequences. That is the big change. The consequences are now being rubbed in our face by what is happening with wildfires and desertification and flooding in Miami that's going to get worse, and the problems of the migrations of humans in Bangladesh and other parts of this world now that don't have food and are having to move in the hundreds of thousands. That is a reality that wasn't here 100 years ago as well.
And then I have this weird thought. Go with me on this for a second, Linda. Just go with me. I have this weird thought. There's part of me that wants to see Antarctica melt so we can see what's underneath it, right? So they can't hide it. You know what I mean? But we can't have both, obviously. But they are hiding something down there, and I think that they are really frantic right now with the melting that is going on, not only in Antarctica, but Greenland. And I read what was it? Was it in Chile? The part of this glacier just cracked and fell off, and I'm like, okay, we're closer to them not being able to hide anything from us, but we're getting it at a cost. You know what I mean?
Yes. Oh, yeah, because we had that big Ross Glacier came off this summer, that big break.
Right.
And behind it, even though this Delaware-sized chunk of ice, which is apparently also melting faster than they thought, behind it, it was, we'll call it floating on the water, the way you would have an ice cube in a glass, and your water in your glass doesn't overflow because the water and the ice cube have a physics trade-off in that volume that's inside of that glass. But if you take that analogy and you say that behind where the Ross Glacier fell, there is a huge volume of ice that is on land. It is all of that ice that is now the pressure holding it back has been released somewhat by the collapse of this big chunk of ice into the ocean. And that means that ice that is on the land in Antarctica is going to be freer to move forward into the ocean. That's when we start accelerating sea level rise. And the fact that the melt seems to be going more rapidly than they expected, it needs to be also addressed in this way. You will hear other people who will argue, oh, well, but there have been ice buildups in Antarctica and there are areas where they've had thicker ice. It's all part of the same computer programs that have been analyzing what would happen if we had X percentage degrees increase in Fahrenheit over a small period of time. You will get these big swings in the dynamics of wind and moisture in the air, and that's why we can be in global warming, and a section of Antarctica might have a buildup in ice, but places like where the big Ross chunk fell off will be where it is melting faster. And it's these contradictions that I think that the public in general has a hard time accommodating, because you will hear these what seem opposites, but it's absolutely part of the computer modeling of what happens when the atmosphere is warming and we are getting accelerated melt. And the Arctic, we are at a point where the Arctic has melted so much and continues each year to have as much or more melt than the year before. And already there have been some headlines about Russia and some other countries that are looking to doing permanent trade areas in the Arctic. And so we're getting into geopolitical potential of geopolitical territorial conflicts just about things like sea lanes, where places like the Arctic are opening up as they've never been in human history. This is the reality that we're in. Nothing is going to go back. Like they say, you can't go home again. We're on a planet now that is making a big change, and it isn't going to be like it was 100 years ago for maybe never, but
right.
At least for a very long time.
Do you think, we're going to head towards a break here in 4 minutes, Linda, but do you think that all of this has something to do, well, everything is connected when it comes to Mother Nature and planet Earth, for sure, but the migrations of the monarch butterflies and the bees and the bee population, which are critical to our seasons and our growth and our plants and fruits and vegetables and everything else, it's all connected. Do you think that that has anything to do with global warming?
Well, the problems with the migration of the butterflies is 2 or 3 pronged. The overuse of insecticides in the United States, combined with changes in temperatures that come at the wrong times or are incompatible with what have been the centuries-long migration of those beautiful butterflies. If they get caught where it's warm and then it goes cold suddenly, which has been, the dynamics are swinging more than they go from cold to hot And these kinds of swings and dynamics can end up trapping something like hundreds of thousands of butterflies trying to get from the United States down south. And the pesticides, they need to eat milkweed, and in many places milkweed is decimated, and that means that there is no food for the butterflies, and that goes to pesticides. So we have several problems. Now, one of the things that's been very interesting to me is I started getting a lot of emails, probably at least a year ago, but the theme kept coming. It was persistent, and the number of emails have increased, where people have been writing to me from everywhere, Europe and Eastern Europe and Canada, the United States, Mexico, a lot of places saying, I can't see insects like I used to. I used to drive in a car and my windshield would be covered with insects. Well, there's a German science group, and they have been, in fact, investigating and finding that the numbers of insects in Europe, where they have been doing studies, in some places are down, Jimmy, 86%.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Now, what would happen, literally what would happen, if we lost the valuable insects that are the food for birds, and they are the containment on so many other kinds of scourges in the environment? We need insects. What happens if they disappear? Well, there was a scientist in Germany. He was asked exactly that question by one of the news media there, and he said, with tongue-in-cheek, I would suspect that the vertebrates will go extinct before the insects. Well, that's you, me, and everything that has skeletal bones. And it was like he was making a wry joke. Yeah, the insects are on their way out, and the numbers compared to what might happen to humans and mammals and everything that's vertebrate, we might end up being extinct before the insects. Now, what we're going to have to start monitoring, I think, more carefully is, as we get into 2018, I think there are scientists preparing those kinds of investigations. Are there regions in the United States now where there really are not insects? And what does that mean if it keeps expanding? I think that is one of the environmental mysteries now, and it's related to changing climate and pesticides again, because we know that it is the nicotine-based pesticides that have been doing in the bees from 2006-07 when the first terms of colony collapse disorder occurred. And I did an interview with Dave Hackenberg in Pennsylvania. He was the guy who went to the University of Pennsylvania and said, I've just lost 80% of my honeybees. Please find out what is wrong. And it began there. And when I did an interview with him, that February of 2007, after he had done that report at the University of Pennsylvania, he told me in that interview that he and other honeybee growers in Pennsylvania, talking among themselves, they were all saying the same thing. We think it is the then new nicotine-based pesticides that are killing our bees. And now in 2017, there have been so many tests that finger the nicotine-based pesticides as being a huge killer, down to a sensitivity, meaning you could reduce the nicotine-based pesticide down to something at molecular levels, and it's still going to have an impact on honeybees. They're that sensitive. And Italy, France, parts of Europe, they are banning. But in the United States, Monsanto and others are persisting with nicotine-based pesticides that we know are devastating to honeybees and pollinators. And when do we get
Linda,
past?
yeah, I know, Linda. Yeah. I have to take a break right here, so let's do that. We'll pick up right here when we come back. But also, we've got to jump in your reporting and research on these booms.
Yeah.
We've got to go feet first into this, and let's do that when we come back. Our guest tonight, Linda Moulton Howe. We're doing a 2017 wrap-up, and I look forward to 2018. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station, Salt Lake City, Utah, Van Buren, Arkansas. Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy.
You're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to jimmychurchradio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
Ancient Life Oil. Life-changing. The real oil. CBD is truly ancient life oil from the source. This oil has no psychoactive effect and is also legal in all 50 states. When you're healthy, you're happy. The truth about this wonderful plant is that it wants to give back to mankind life, longevity, and happiness. Ancient Life Oil are golden grade, all organic, non-GMO, and infused with high-quality liquid coconut oil. It's simple. Just go to ancientlifeoil.com today. That's ancientlifeoil.com. The best, purest, organic, and non-GMO CBD in the world. Go Beckley Tappy. The statements made regarding these products have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please consult your healthcare professional about potential interactions or other possible complications before using any product.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can also follow Linda at Earth Files on Twitter. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black Blend. Use your promo code Fade to Black Blend, and you will get 15% off on your order. Just click on the banners over at jimmychurchradio.com. Now, Linda, and you and I remember a couple of years ago, you and I, you know what I wanted to mention before I move forward? We're going to be at the Conscious Life Expo together again this year, and and we will be, you're going to be on, the panel, Ancient Aliens panel on Friday night. Right. That's going to be great, but no Jim Mars this year. And so this is, and...
Yeah, God bless him, but I really think he's out there in another dimension still interacting.
Yeah, and so we're going to do a tribute to Jim Marrs at the Ancient Aliens panel, and I was thinking about something today about that, and do you remember, this is for the audience to enjoy, I think it was probably 4 years ago, I'm not sure where we were at, but you, Jim, and I it was at night, and we were standing under a tree, and we were, three of us were talking. I think Don Schmidt was there, too. And we were talking, and this is what is funny. The audience is probably imagining you, Marrs, myself, and Schmidt standing there talking about UFOs. We were talking about our family. We were talking about health. Do you remember that? We were just talking about life.
And I think we were down in Roswell.
Yeah, we were somewhere. It was under a tree. That's all I remember. And and what a great moment that was. And we were all together there. And I just miss that guy. And I look forward to our time together at Conscious Life, where we could do a very fitting tribute to Jim Marrs.
Yeah, one of the funniest, best people ever. And from 1989 until he went to another dimension this year, he and I, if we were colleagues in content, he would call me up with, "You've got to call this phone number right now." And the most he would say is, "And this is going to be a woman in Texas, and Linda, honest to God, she has seen her best friend transfer from a human into a reptile." And that was quite literal of something that happened a few years ago. And we knew each other well enough, and we did so many interviews with people and exchanged material that he could do that. "Linda, you have to call this number right now, and this is who you're going to be talking to." And so it was fun as well as very serious, because I really do think that Jim in Crossfire did the first real penetrating, I'm going to use the word, bigger truth about what had happened around the JFK assassination than anybody had done to that point.
No doubt.
Because Jim, like myself, what we honored and honor is the pressure of fact in a political system that seems to always want to hide the facts. And that's where Jim and I really were on the same page, and it was really fun to work on various subjects with him.
I remember he told me a story one time about the two of you driving around like Colorado and New Mexico in a pickup truck chasing cattle mutilations. Do you remember doing that with Jim?
Well, I think I know that John Lear and I traveled in a pickup truck with some people from, I think we started out in Denver, and I think it had been a conference, and we went to Albuquerque, and then we went further south to Roswell. And I know I did that with Lear, and I talked with Jim about that whole trip and who we were interviewing. So I don't recall Jim himself being on that trip, but I remember telling him about this amazing trip with Lear and being able to meet Ernie Edwards and go talk with Clifford Stone and meeting some other people along the way and going to the location where Paul Benowitz had been with his cameras and recording equipment. Apparently, he stumbled into some kind of UFO interaction with Kirtland Air Force Base out west of where I live in Albuquerque, and that Paul Benowitz was the sort of like the trigger point for somebody in the civilian world to get involved with Kirtland Air Force Base, thinking that he was doing a good deed, going to Kirtland Air Force Base and saying there are UFOs, and this is what I'm monitoring. And the terrible history is that he was hurt. Apparently it was microwaves. I remember talking with J. Allen Hynek about this. Hynek went to see Benowitz and I had been there and had seen red, straight marks on Paul Benowitz's hands, arms, on his wife, and he was explaining that he was convinced that the government was focusing microwaves on his laboratory and where he lived, trying to hurt him and his wife and people who were there. And that was the moment where part of the world branched off and said, well, Paul Benowitz has gone insane. And that's what the government wanted. That's exactly what they wanted. But the truth was they were very sane, and they were being targeted. And when Hynek went to see Paul Benowitz, Paul had been hospitalized. And Hynek came up to Denver to see me with a good friend of his, Richard Sigismund, and we went to dinner. And I remember it was the first weekend in August of 1985, because the next day I was leaving for Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, to produce a documentary for UNICEF on child survival there, and that night is the demarcation that Hynek, in August, that first week in August 1985, did not know that he would be dead by April. None of us did. And it was he had had prostate cancer, and apparently something had spread to his brain. But what makes this whole story this much more melancholy is that his friend Richard Sigismund and I and Alan did not know what his fate was a few months later. But in that discussion in August of 1985, he was talking about what he had seen with Benowitz and his wife, and he was convinced that they had suffered physical harassment by some kind of microwave energy. And he talked about that he knew for a fact that there had been discs and bodies retrieved and that they had been held underground in Norton Air Force Base in California. And he was talking to us about that as if these were facts that he knew. And we got to talking about why the suppression, and he said, I feel embarrassed in my life that as an astronomer that I was roped into being used by the Air Force to come out and say in Michigan it was swamp gas or some other term that he really didn't believe, and that now at that point in his life he really wanted the truth and he really wanted to see the craft, he wanted to see the bodies. And this, Jimmy, was the exact tone of J. Allen Hynek, who had been an astronomer at Ohio State and Northwestern and worked with the Air Force on the what we all know now was a phony Project Blue Book to get the public and the media off the Air Force's back, while the government was always and never stopped investigating the real UFO ET side of things. And so it is amazing to me when you bring up Jim and that whole period of time when some of us were paralleling in our investigations, and that discussion with J. Allen Hynek that night, it was even more profound in some ways, because at one point he put his left hand on my right wrist, where the three of us were sitting at a kind of a small dinner table. And he looked at me and he said, Linda, do you think I will be vindicated in my lifetime? And he had tears in his eyes. And I still remember that moment, that this man who really did want to know the truth, and I think had a lot of data, and he certainly talked about bodies and craft at Norton Air Force Base with the solidity of knowledge. But he said that he was denied seeing them, that after all of the work that he had done with the Air Force and how he had sort of taken a 90-degree path away from being a first-class astronomer and had become somebody who did the bidding of the Air Force and then eventually had founded the Center for UFO Studies.
Right.
That he had sacrificed one profession in an effort to get to the truth in this complex, multifaceted, multi-layered phenomena And that night at dinner, when he grasped my wrist, it was almost like we didn't know what was coming. And yet, I think of that moment. He would be dead by April.
That's crazy. Did you
Yeah,
have
and
any?
it's really happened.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about so many different aspects of this time period and what was going on in your life, and Benowitz and Doty and Washington D.C. and of course the networks and HBO, and this whole period was a pivotal time. I want to ask you a couple of questions about this. Did Benowitz to you? Did Paul seem ungrounded to you?
No, the opposite. A man with a sharp mind who, let's put it this way, those of us who want to get the truth once we are exposed to some of the facets of the UFO phenomena, it is like walking through Alice in Wonderland's mirror.
Right.
Because one day and 1 hour, you are living a life that had no UFOs or ETs in it. And then something happens, and you become aware, you become conscious. And in that moment, you want to know the truth, you want to see the craft, you want to meet the ETs, you want to know about them, I wanted to know why animal mutilations, why human abductions, why so many different types described by so many people, what would be the alien presence, goal, and agenda on this planet in which the surface life anyway was dominated by Homo sapiens sapien. My exposure to those words in that briefing paper shown to me at Kirtland Air Force Base when I was working on the HBO project.
Right.
Extraterrestrial biological entities manipulated DNA in already evolving primates to create Homo sapien. Those were words on that page. How can anybody be exposed to what I was being exposed to, from the animal mutilations to the human abductions to a briefing paper like that and more, and not want to keep going to the bottom of the well to know the answers to all of these questions of who, what, why, where, and from? So that's where the Alice in Wonderland mirror comes in. Because one day I'm director of special projects at the CBS station in Denver, and I am doing environment and medicine and science and training of astronauts and those kinds of subjects. And then animal mutilations are in front of me, and I go into 9 months, 18 hours a day, literally without break, and produce the 90-minute special A Strange Harvest. And once that aired, I didn't know it at the time, but there really was no turning back from the other side of the Alice in Wonderland mirror for me, because I was being exposed to too many mysteries, profound, and the whole other bigger box question. If there are mutilations and human abductions and ancient civilizations were carved out by other intelligences and the whole gamut, how would you ever, with a curious mind, how would you ever walk away from those questions without getting the answers? And as you and I and Jim and everybody that we know who is seriously trying to get to the bottom of all of this, the questions that lead to some answers keep going to more profound questions, and instead of narrowing down to fundamental answers, when you get into this phenomena, when you cross through that Alice in Wonderland mirror, you suddenly find yourself in a bigger box and a bigger box and a bigger box. And that has become a kind of excitement for me, is that I am now trying to seriously talk with physicists about, could we be in a computer-simulated universe?
Mm-hmm.
Are the fast radio bursts as Avi Loeb at Harvard University wrote in a paper earlier this spring. The hypothesis is that the fast radio bursts, of which we've recorded, it's 27 or 28 now, that they could be the signature of light travel transportation processes. And he uses those terms in his paper, and he's chairman of the astronomy department at Harvard University, and he is on the board of directors for Starshot. And Starshot is the growing program in which we are going to try to launch small, lightweight, but extremely intelligent. This would be a space application of artificial intelligence, like taking an iPhone and maybe putting it on steroids, but it will still stay small, and it will be launched maybe from the moon, because then there would be less atmosphere, and they're going to try to get Starshot in these first launches headed toward Alpha Centauri, 4 light years, the closest star and planet system. And if they can launch the first launch and get one of these smart AI space traveling machines going at 30% the speed of light, they could get it to Alpha Centauri to do measurements and photograph and all of that, maybe in 15, 16 years. And while that's happening, the idea is each year we would keep progressing in our ability to launch the AI to, let's say, 50% the speed of light, then 70% the speed of light, then 80% the speed of light. And if we got up to 100% the speed of light, which is the hypothesis about what fast radio bursts might be, 100% the speed of light, or near that, Alpha Centauri is 4 light years away, we'd get there in 4 years. Now, the issue that I don't know what they're going to do about this is, okay, you get there and you have your recording and you're photographing like we've done on Mars. It'll take 4 years somehow to transmit back to Earth. Meanwhile, we don't have a tennis match. We don't have somebody out there that will bat it back at the speed of light or near the speed of light to the Earth. We'd have to get there, and we'd have to send some, I guess, a human-based crew after the AI has gone and we'd decide whether or not it was something that was habitable. But, Jimmy, all of this is happening now.
I know.
Elon Musk, he wants to launch to Mars in 2026, maybe earlier. The Starshot, they want to get these smart AIs launched at some percentage of the speed of light toward Alpha Centauri by same time frame, somewhere around 2026. And it's like, in spite of ourselves, in spite of all of the geopolitical problems, environmental issues, Homo sapien, humanity, seems determined, maybe destined. We're going out into our solar system. We're going to head out toward Alpha Centauri. The space age is upon us while we are trying, as surface creatures on Earth, just to survive ourselves. What a schizophrenic civilization we are.
Would you, Linda, be straight with me? It's the end of, you're there with J. Allen Hynek. It's the end of Close Encounters, right? You're at the top of Devil's Tower. Do you get on that spaceship? Do you go and hang out? Do you leave Earth if you had the opportunity? Would you go?
Oh God, I remember exactly in 78, I think, when Encounters came out, the Spielberg film.
Right.
And I remember this was before 79. This is before I go through the Alice in Wonderland mirror into trying to understand UFOs and ETs and animal mutilations. That didn't come until I start doing the film A Strange Harvest in September of 79. So I remember distinctly being in a movie theater watching encounters, and at the end, with all those orange-suited astronauts going into that big, huge UFO, oh my God, yes. I wanted to go and see the universe. Absolutely.
I was so jealous of Richard Dreyfuss. I wanted to be... I would do it. Now, this is what I said, though. I said this last month. We were talking about it here on the show. And this is what you know what would really determine if I got on the ship or not? Now, don't laugh. No, you can laugh. Food. I want to make sure.
I couldn't help but laugh.
Yeah, right. Because, you get on the ship, right? And you're all excited, and you sit down for your first meal, and it's some crazy thing, right? It's like,
Okay. Reality check. What are we doing with Xerox printers today?
I know, exactly.
We're making organs. We're making jewelry. We're making fine precision tools. I swear, Jimmy, somewhere in that kind of process, we're going to end up with exactly what they showed on Star Trek, where they would go up to that machine and they would get anything they could manifest, because somehow if you have all the elements and you somehow have something that can take the atomic structure of whatever elements go into making a Coke or a hamburger or whatever it is,
right.
And that you have something like the Xerox printers, then the idea that you could have filet mignon with a Cabernet Sauvignon on some kind of a ship going to Mars, I think it's doable, just in terms of concept, and that's why I laughed, because I think we are at that point. If we're making organs that are going to go surgically into bodies from these Xerox printers, we would be able to do food, I think. And all of this comes to this other big mystery that I have been trying to solve since 2011, and this is all of these booms around the planet. And why I jumped there, as we are at this stage, some kind of revolutionary transition, and I hope next year we're going to have the headlines around the world, we're not alone in this universe. And that once that happens, that's kind of a 90-degree turn of going through the Alice in Wonderland mirror for the whole planet in a strange way. And nothing will be quite the same again, but I hope it is more exciting and positive than some people think. Well, we're in a period of time where the numbers of mysteries that are being reported now on a weekly and monthly basis in all of the media that you and I and others track, it seems exponentially expanding. And that one of those mysteries that has not gone away, it has persisted constantly around the planet, the whole world, are the booms that can be associated with a bright, blinding flash of light. And when this has occurred, and I've done my own follow up with what was the weather like, clear skies, no thunder, no lightning, and yet these blinding flashes. One was even caught on a security camera. And they started in what I will call a persistent pattern in 2011. People can talk about the Seneca guns and various parts of the planet that over the centuries somebody would report some loud sound. I'm not saying that didn't exist. I'm saying something else started happening in 2011 that had cycles to it. There are places like Kentucky, Fort Knox, where the booms come each year since 2011 in July.
Well, let's take a break right here. Got to do it. And this booms thing, Linda, there is something going on. I cannot wait.
And this morning, I'm going to tell you about after the break.
We'll be right back with Linda Moulton Howe. This is Fade to Black. I'm Yosemite Church. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
All
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRARadio.com.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Hurricanes, earthquakes, wildfires. This year we've experienced more than our fair share. This is Jimmy Church of Fade to Black, and last month I decided to make sure my family does not have to worry about food should we get caught in a real emergency situation. Introducing Numana, a healthy, storable product that tastes so good that you'll want to eat it every day instead of just during those times of duress. All Numana products have a 25-year shelf life, are MSG and GMO-free, no preservatives, and are made in America. With the Numana pack in your home, you'll be able to sleep at night knowing that you've protected your family. Not only have I tasted and tested, I own it. Now you can too. Just click on the Numana banner on JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code Jimmy when you order. In addition to a discount, we'll send you an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Seriously, go Beckley Tappy.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
You listen to us, and we listen to you. And so does the CIA. KGRARadio.com.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. You can follow Linda at Earth Files. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by New Pharma, GNU Pharma. Just click on the banner over at JimmyChurchRadio.com right now. Natural solutions to health and wellness. Their foundation is something I take every single day. Click on the banners and use promo code F2B. 33% off of your order because you are a Fadernaut. Our guest tonight is Linda Moulton Howe. You know, Linda, we do this every year with you, and it's an honor to have you on the program, but you've become such great friends, with our Fadernaut community and of course, the stable that we have over at KGRA and what you're doing with John Burroughs and now Gaia, which is an outstanding program, by the way. I've watched them all.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you for that in advance. And so let's get...
Well, Jimmy, thank you for interfacing with the world on so many subjects that need to be out there.
Well, and this booms thing, probably... I started getting email about it about 4 years ago, And I started to go off and do research on it, spoke to you about it on numerous occasions. And this is something that is real. And it is, what I mean by real is it's being documented by just average citizens all around the world. They're wondering what's going on. And we just did this TV show with a History Channel, and we tried to capture some of these booms, and the Taos hum, amongst other things. There is something going on. And you told me this morning that something happened this morning. What?
That's right. I opened up my email, and here was this. Here, I'm reading it. Hello, my name is Norberto Mata. I have been following your investigative work about the unknown booms around the world, and I had never heard those strange sounds until just this past month. And then says, the boom started here in the city of Chihuahua, Mexico, in the past month, which is almost straight south, if people know Las Cruces in New Mexico. If you go straight south from Las Cruces, you will come to Chihuahua. And he said, also, with some of the booms here, there have been sightings of weird, bright flashes of light, but no clouds or rain. And he sent along a link, and I went to the link that was in Spanish, and thankfully we have Google Translate that works pretty well.
Right.
And I posted this morning at my earthfiles.com headlines page that early this morning of December 5th, 2017, Chihuahua, Mexico, police and firemen responded to residents reporting loud, explosive, booming noises on the north side of the city. The investigators themselves heard explosion sounds, and they went off in units to explore the Plaza Vallarta, the Zaragoza Industries, and the Chihuahua cement plant, but they could not find the source of any loud booms, which is part of this mystery, is that various, we'll say it's police and fire and mayors and city council people will go out into the city where people are reporting booms. Sometimes it's thousands of people calling. And nobody can find any evidence of an explosion. But here is the interesting part. From 2011 to 2017, this has been 6 years of these reports. And I think I have about 400 reports at Earth Files alone. And in all of these interviews, sometimes with authorities and a lot with people who I call the ear witnesses, and sometimes eyewitnesses to the flashes, here, Jimmy, is part of why this is such a interesting mystery. You will talk with people who say, I felt like a compression wave coming and hitting me or hitting the side of the house, or they have a very specific place. One wall in the house shook and the rest of the house did not. They talk about it as a compression wave coming from above and being very focused. Other people, like there was a mayor in Michigan. She was out with her city engineers. They had hundreds of calls from people who were reporting that they were hearing these loud booms. So she, as mayor, decided that she would walk with her city engineers, staying up all night. And suddenly they all heard one of these explosive booms. And she was on a sidewalk downtown, and she felt, this was her verb that she used, it felt like something slapped the bottoms of my feet. So now that's something coming from below. What is the source that manifests itself as atmospheric compression waves with a focus in some cases, and in others is cracking sidewalks, knocking garage doors out of their tracks, slamming the bottoms of a mayor's shoes from below? That to me goes to the heart of what are we dealing with. And now add on this. There are computers that are trying to take a whole bunch of data related to the question, could the magnetic poles of Earth be getting ready to switch positions this century?
Right.
And in the scientists that I've talked to about this, and I've done I think half a dozen reports at Earth Files on that question and with people who are studying it, the best data that we have right now on the Earth for what happened back at the last time there was a magnetic pole shift, which for listeners, it is not the crust changing. It is nothing geophysically switching around. It is the magnetic field, positive and negative. They change positions so that the magnetic field that's in the Antarctic now will be up somewhere in the Arctic area or Siberia, and the one that's been in the Arctic will be down in Antarctica. That's what we talk about. And it could also be in other parts of the planet, but I'm trying to have people be able to just grasp the basic concept that the pole magnetic fields will change. Now, the last time that this occurred, several 100,000 years ago, there is a lake in Italy that preserved, for reasons that are not clear, but preserved very perfectly going back through the last magnetic field change on the planet. And the clay was undisturbed, and it was perfect. And there is a scientist that I interviewed in one of my Earth Files reports who studied these clays, and they had a paper that the revelation was that in the 100 years leading up to the last magnetic field change, in just 100 years, the magnetic field of the Earth went down to zero or near zero a few times. I think it was 4 or 5 times during those 100 years. Now, why is this really significant? Because this is hard data. And if you have the magnetic fields of this planet go down to zero, then you could have a lot of solar particles reaching the ground, which could cause an increase in skin cancers in humans, and what would happen to birds and marine animals that are guided by magnetic fields. That's a big question mark, and interestingly enough, there really are not simple answers from many scientists about what exactly would happen and for how long. So if it goes down and then comes back up and goes down and comes back up and does this half a dozen times in 100 years leading up, we could be in that period. And since nobody knows what the physical manifestations were, is it possible that we're now going to be in a century where there will be increasing aberrations with the magnetic field of this planet, that it could literally go down to zero or somewhere near zero, and then what would happen? And in this entire process, why do the magnetic fields change? It has to do with a mystery at the core of this Earth. At the core of the Earth, there is an iron crystal sphere. And that iron crystal sphere has iron atoms and molecules under huge pressure. And what the computer and the investigations seem to say is that there will be a change in the negative and positive poles at the molecular level before there is the big magnetic field change at the poles. Why that occurs in the big iron crystal sphere at the center of the Earth is not exactly clear, but it means that there could be changes then at the core that could have infrasound that goes through the mantle, comes up out of the rind. We literally live on a rind. It is only on average about 15 to 25 miles of what we call Earth's surface. And when you go down through the rind that we all live on, you get into the area where the mantle is, and you start getting into, it's like hot jello as you keep going down, and that if you have changes going on in an iron crystal, at the center of this 8,000-mile diameter planet, could it make infrasound that would go through that mantle, come out through the surface rind, go up into the atmosphere, slam into the ionosphere, and come back, bounce back to the Earth and change from infrasound that human ears could not hear to a boom, or metallic sounds, or even the strange trumpet-like sounds that have had many variations that have been recorded on many various audio cassettes around the world.
Right.
Well, wouldn't it be something if what we're experiencing and all of us around the world was the prelude to the magnetic fields changing? It's speculation, but this to me is part of the excitement of investigating scientific mysteries separate from UFOs and ETs, because I think that this is incredible that we could be in the century before the magnetic fields of the Earth change.
That would explain why we can't find the physical evidence, dynamite, atomic nuclear testing, whatever it is, supersonic planes being tested, a new SR-71, Aurora. We take the human element out of it because we can't find that evidence, and it just may be Mother Nature, and Mother Nature giving us a warning.
And that, to me, is that excites me to encounter unknowns and then try to keep going forward to find answers. And what you and I and Jim Mars and a whole bunch of people understand now is that when it comes to the alien presence, as E. Howard Hunt told the attorney Douglas Caddy before he was going to prison, that the reason that the CIA killed John F. Kennedy was because he wanted to open up the alien presence to the Soviet Union and they couldn't allow it. And you have something that provocative and that big, and you think this is a doorway into understanding what's the truth about an alien presence. But then what you find is that as soon as you have people inside the government who are actual whistleblowers, that they've been exposed to only a small piece of something so complex and so vast and so big as other life in this universe that can send, let's say, androids here or hybrids here and self-activating spacecraft that don't even need to have the prime intelligence because they are essentially operating like a life form with its own intelligence.
Right.
And the more you go, the more incredible it becomes, and the more I would like to know. And that Lynn Buchanan set a tone for me when we did an interview on Phenomena Radio a couple of years ago. And Lynn Buchanan had been part of the Project Stargate that was officed at Fort Meade. And it was in the old World War II barracks next to the big, shiny, beautiful National Security Agency building. But the CIA and the Defense Intelligence Agency said that they didn't want Congress to ever think that they were spending too much money on remote viewing, so they kept them in these old, crumbly barracks. But Lynn Buchanan was one of the men in that group, and for reasons that are not clear, in 2015, John Burroughs got a notice that on the Central Intelligence Agency real website that you can go to on the web, that somebody sent a URL from the CIA website to John saying, look at this. And it was a remote view of Rendlesham Forest at the December 26th to 28th, 1980 time period. And I knew Lynn Buchanan from a conference and had talked and seen him actually demonstrate and teach a little bit about remote viewing. So he lives down in southern New Mexico, and I called him up and I said, Lynn, let me give you a URL, and would you go and tell me if you recognize this? So I'm on the phone. He is going on his computer. I didn't front load. I didn't tell him.
Right.
when he saw that page, or there's actually more than one, he used words I can't use on the radio. He was shocked. He was astonished. He said, I thought none of our remote viewing work was ever going to see the light of day. And I said, well, since it's there, it's now officially public, would you do an interview, both live and recording for Earth Files, about everything? Let's walk through every word and every sentence of this incredible remote viewing. And here is the bottom line of what made this fascinating and opens this box of this universe that we're in even more. He had, in his remote viewing back in 1989, that would be 9 years after the events in Rendlesham Forest in December 1980. But, the remote viewing guys, they don't know what they're remote viewing. They are doing a target, and they don't know what it is. They can only learn about it later. And this was what was so amazing to him, that it was at the CIA website. But he said that he remembered getting down into a propulsion system in a black, glossy, some kind of triangular craft, and that there was a green-yellow light. He knew that it was a self-activating craft. It did not have pilots. It didn't have people who came with it. It would be like a very sophisticated android. And there was this greenish-yellow light, and in his remote viewing, he's going toward it, and he says, it seems like there is an incubator in this. And I'm getting the impression that this craft is here on this planet looking for places to deposit something like DNA to see if it will take hold and create life here.
Did
what
he
an
know?
Extraordinary.
Yeah, did he know? I'm assuming not, but did he know about Burroughs?
Nothing.
Really?
No. This was back in 1989, and they knew nothing. They knew zero.
Right.
That's what made this so astonishing. And then go the next step. He said, Linda, all of us that were in Project Stargate, we all ended up with assignments, targets, and we realized that we were going out into the universe or to Mars or someplace. And he said, what we all learned is the universe is teeming with life. And he said, some are our allies, or we would never have survived this long. And some are enemies, and that means there can be potential war. And right there in that sentence, it kind of encapsulates the, I'm going to say a series of insights that various whistleblower types have given me over the last 30 years, in which you talk to one person and they have the impression that we get help from a particular type.
Right.
And that our technological evolution has been spurred on purpose because if humanity does not advance more quickly, we will not survive. And then there comes another who says, but we are potentially in a dangerous situation with intelligences. They may want this planet. They may be in war with other beings that are involved with Earth, and it may not be personal to Homo sapien, but that there are wars, and that the size of the scope of when you say those words, unidentified flying objects or unidentified aerial phenomena or extraterrestrial biological entities or self-activating software or androids with intelligence, we are right now hearing all of the time from somebody like Elon Musk, who is determined. He wants to get to Mars. He wants to use various kinds of technology. The idea that we need to have an expansion from Earth, a base that would be in our solar system, is becoming paramount to the idea that we could face an existential threat. And if we faced an existential threat and all of our eggs were in the one basket of Earth, that might in and of itself be a problem. And so suddenly, when you're trying to understand what the true history of the Earth is, of other intelligences being here, based here millions of years ago, long before Homo erectus ever stood up is, as I understand it, that the Anunnaki and the Greeks were extraterrestrial with very advanced knowledge. Why should that be kept from the 7.2 billion and exponentially expanding human species on the earth now, Jimmy? Why should it be kept from us?
Yeah, and this is the thing about that entire that entire point is this. And now we're going to head towards a break in 3 minutes, so I need your short answer, and then we'll pick it up on the backside. Mm-hmm. The ISS, the press release last week about them finding bacteria growing on the outside of the space station. Right? That has accumulated, growing and apparently living in the vacuum of space. It is apparently alien, number one. Number two, they brought it down here to Earth to test. Now, that verifies a whole lot of different things if it turns out to be, obviously, alien life. What did you think when you read those reports?
The first thing that popped into my head is, my God, it means that things that we put in the category of bacteria could survive on the surface of a freezing cold piece of technology that we put out there that is orbiting our planet in conditions that would kill us, and there are bacteria from whatever source that can live on the surface, getting solar radiation in absolutely mind-blowingly cold temperatures to the human mind. Well, doesn't that say our definition of life, our definition of conditions where life can be, is really through the lens of what we know about Earth, and that what is actually in this 13.9 billion light-year universe?
Right.
Oh, my God, to know everything that is in this cosmos? Well, that's what I would like to understand.
Would you have, give me the 30-second answer, would you have brought that bacteria back to Earth, or would you left it up there and tested it on the ISS?
Well, it depends on how they did it, because we have viruses and bacteria that are extremely dangerous in very high secure areas to study. So if it's handled correctly, I can't believe scientists would do it sloppily, then it's going to be in a high security facility to study, and we shouldn't worry. But I understand the question you're asking. How dangerous could it be if we've got something that could grow in the ISS and we bring it to Earth and we didn't know how to cope with it if it spread? However, I really think my first answer is the one that is the one to think about. We want to study something that could survive on the surface of the ISS.
Yeah, but you and I have both seen the Andromeda strain. Okay.
Yes.
Our guest tonight is Linda Moulton Howe. This is Fade to Black. Take a little break, and when we come back, I've got to talk about this artificial world that we could possibly be living in. We'll do all of that next. Stay with us.
Hi everybody, this is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
This is KGRA Digital Broadcasting Station. Salt Lake City, Utah. Van Buren, Arkansas.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slow circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Your contact for current news and trending topics. KGRARadio.com.
Hello, Fadernauts. This is Jimmy Church, and I'm introducing New Pharma, a company whose products are based on science. Human function based on the endocannabinoid system, or ECS. New Pharma firmly believes in this science, and their research indicates that support of the ECS provides the beneficial effects for a healthy lifestyle. New Pharma's science includes relief capsules for pain relief, sleep capsules, which are natural support for occasional sleeplessness. Foundation is support for your ECS, and Fit capsules support your active lifestyle. Just click on the banner at jimmychurchradio.com and use the promo code F2B for a 33% discount on all of their products. Or visit newpharma.com for all of the knowledge on the science. That's GNUpharma.com. Go Beckley Tappy. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Tappy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. This segment of Fade to Black is proudly brought to you by New Manna, emergency food storage for you and your family. 25-year shelf life, no MSG, GMO-free, made in America. Now, today we went through that emergency here in Southern California. We have fires everywhere. And when I went through my emergency checklist today with Rita, New Manna and food was something that we were not worrying about. Just spend over $100 and you'll get an autographed Fade to Black t-shirt. Just use the promo code Jimmy. Our guest tonight is Linda Moulton Howe. You can follow Linda on Twitter at Earthfiles. And now, Linda, I'm going to ask you directly. This artificial reality, the possibility of a binary 1 and 0 existence. Right. Are you okay? Let's just say this plays out the way that Silicon Valley's talking about right now. Are you okay with it? Are you okay?
Oh, yes, and I think that the evidence is building to this being a holographic universe. And if that question keeps coming up, it does in science journals and public conferences and in the media, and it was I think it was back in April of 2016 that there was a Recode Code computer conference in Los Angeles, and Elon Musk was there, and they asked him that question: are we living in a simulated universe? And he answered, and I'm looking right at his quote, the odds we are in base reality is 1 in billions. And what that means is he thinks that the odds are hugely high against us being in some kind of organic, natural, unique singularity, that this is, in fact, a simulated universe. Well, that month of April in 2016, they had an American Museum of Natural History gathering in New York City, and it sold out with this being the title to the public to come and listen, Is the Universe a Simulation? And the moderator was astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson. And one of the theoretical physicists in that debate was James Gates. He's PhD and a professor of theoretical physics at University of Maryland in College Park. And he researches supersymmetry and superstring theory. And when he was asked, how could we discover whether we live inside of a simulation, which, remember the movie with Keanu Reeves, are we living inside of a matrix that is established by something else? Humans live in it, but we are not aware that we're in a computer simulation. Okay, so Professor Gates said at this panel thing, quote, try to detect the presence of codes in the laws that describe physics, and that when he was working in supersymmetry equations, he was surprised to find that he was finding what we would call the kind of code that when you use it, you're trying to remove errors in computer transmissions to make the computer browsers work better. And the fact that they could find something that would be a recognizable code at the subatomic level reinforced the legitimacy of this question, at least asking, could we be living in a virtual reality, a generated computer network? Then there were, in the beginning of this year, in February 2017, there were theoretical physicists who did a publication in Physical Review Letters, and they used the term substantial evidence that we are living in a holographic universe. And they did this through studying the universe's cosmic microwave background. And the complexity of their work just boiled down to that we are seeing more and more papers that are establishing more and more facets that we could be in a holographic universe. Now, let's go back to around the year 1993, I believe. A book had come out called The Holographic Universe by a man named Michael Talbot. It had a lot of buzz, and I was at a conference in, I think it was Nebraska, and Bud Hopkins was a speaker there, and I was a speaker there, and people were talking all about this, the holographic universe. And when I went to the airport, it turned out I lived in Philadelphia at the time, so Bud and I were on the same plane, and we got seats together, and we were talking about human abductions, and all of a sudden Bud said, I want to tell you, keep it secret. You got to promise you keep it secret. He said, you know this book that everybody's talking about, The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot? He says, Michael Talbot has been one of my human abduction cases for the past 2 years.
No way. No way. Wait,
yeah.
Really?
And he said that Michael Talbot had told Bud that his book that was coming out, and now it was out, The Holographic Universe, was all based on a telepathic download that he got from some of the intelligences that had been abducting him in his life. And that the holographic universe was the real truth. And I don't feel that there's anything wrong in talking about this year, and I talked about it in a couple of conferences last year, because Bud passed a long time ago, and strangely, sadly, Michael Talbot died within, I believe it was a year of his book coming out. So that was back in the 1994 time period, and yet that book, The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot, I would recommend everybody read it. And then come to 2017 going into 2018. There is a physicist that I have interviewed for a series at Earth Files. His name is Thomas Campbell. He had worked in Army intelligence and a lot of military stuff for the Defense Department when he was a younger man. And eventually, as he kept evolving in his own work, he came to help set up the HemiSync technology for Robert Monroe. And Thomas Campbell worked with Robert Monroe directly and was there working with Monroe when he started doing the books, the first book, Journeys Out of the Body. And that brought this physicist, Thomas Campbell, to have a whole new relationship with the universe through the work for Robert Monroe, in which he became convinced that we were not only in a computer-generated universe, but, and this is his mantra, we are in a universe that is an entropy reduction trainer for souls.
Wow.
Now, what does that mean? Entropy is the condition of this universe in which energy is always winding down. The whole process of energy in this universe is going down toward zero. So if he looks at this as an entropy reduction, it means the universe that's projected has a working physical law of entropy, winding down energy. So if something's put in this universe to be an entropy reduction trainer, then it means that the whole goal of souls would be to do everything possible to counteract the decline of energy to zero. And that means that the soul would emphasize light instead of dark.
Right.
Love instead of hate.
Right.
Life instead of death.
Right.
And that he honestly is convinced that this universe has been made specifically to train souls, and that there might be an infinite number of other kinds of souls that are also linked to other dimensions for whole other purposes. And when you get to some of the questions that I asked him in the interview, one of them was, if it's a projected universe, as a hologram, as I understand it on Earth, like if you go to Disney World and you see some of the holograms where people can be dancing and you see their costumes and it's all projected light. And he said, for it to be a holographic universe, the projector has to be outside this universe, presumably in another dimension, which is a lot more to think about, that the projector cannot be in the universe that's being projected. This is the hologram. So he has an idea that this universe was essentially made from zeros and ones and to be a binary system right from the beginning, and he doesn't think that a projector is necessary. However, all of the recent papers that have been coming out in this year discussing this, I would say that they're moving more and more toward what Michael Talbot wrote about, that this is a holographic universe, which means it has to be being projected, and that automatically leads to the question, if it's projected, if we are in a holographic universe, who is doing the projecting from what dimension? Well, that moves this discussion into something that I find personally exciting to contemplate, that we are, our whole emphasis in our living surface life on Earth always seems to be matter, bodies, sex surfaces, when the whole point of everything going on in this universe, even if there are wars, has to do with whether the soul can evolve in order to go into some other higher frequency and to end up with life and light and love instead of hate and war and so forth. Well, I asked him a question. If he thought that reincarnation could be playing a very a machinery role in a universe in which if it were true that it was a entropy reduction trainer for souls, and he said, this was a quote from Thomas Campbell, every time you go through a lifetime, you decrease your entropy if you are successful. Or if you increase it, you devolve. So the next time you get to start where you stopped, wherever you made it in one go-around in this universe, and you leave off, your soul spirit goes to another dimension, and then if it returns here, it will pick up where it left off. And he said that's why we go through these cycles in our mission to grow toward love and away from hate, and toward light away from darkness, and toward life away from death. And then we got into a very interesting discussion when I asked him, well, where do you think that the avatars of history fit into all of this? And that would be Buddha and Krishna and Christ. They came together kind of in the timeline within 500 years. And then after the saga of Christ, you go about 630 some years, and you come to another avatar in the Middle East, Muhammad, and you get another point of view that gets added to this mix. But what if, and this is where Thomas Campbell and I went into this deep discussion about the whole issue of avatars. If this universe is projected, it was made and designed and projected specifically as a trainer for souls, then where the projection is, whether it's in a 10th dimension or wherever it is, you could have intelligences that come from that level, from that dimension, that can be inserted just like professors in a university.
Right.
They would come in here specifically to help guide, teach, neutralize, whatever it is, because sometimes in this universe that is trying to counteract entropy, and entropy is a pretty heavy-duty thing to counteract.
Right.
That life, almost on the verge of beginning to get outside of just survival, might need some help. And that's where the avatars on this planet may have come in, each with a different slight take. But if you go to Christ and Buddha and Krishna, and you boil down essentially what they said, it comes down to you humans, you're not understanding what happens at the moment of death. We're trying to tell you Buddha had a lot to say about reincarnation, and that you would get off the reincarnation wheel if you reached a point in soul development where you didn't desire anything. That was his contribution.
That's right.
If you went to Krishna in India, where the Vamanas were the silver discs that were drawn and painted and seemed to be very real at one time, and you boiled down what he said, his communication was the universe was teeming with life, that he had come from another part of the universe. And again, it was stressing that souls recycle in reincarnation. If you come to Christ, you could say that essentially this was a being who looked at some people and said, I will die in front of you, And I will return and I will walk among you, so you will understand that the moment of death is a transition. Some of you will recognize me after that transition, but most did not. And the whole key there being, in all three, they were talking about life after death in a cycle. So in the Michael Talbot book, in the whole idea of Thomas Campbell, there's a theme, and the theme is that the matter containers that we and other life forms are in are just carrying around the soul spirit to have the interactions, to try to counteract entropy, to try to evolve. And we're on a planet where, unfortunately, the container body seems to get most of the attention rather than the soul. But maybe part of this revolutionary time, if we could get to that announcement that we're not alone in this universe and that there is a tremendous amount to explore and that it can be exciting and dangerous and all of those things, but that to truly evolve, if we're going to get past this existential threat of ourselves, an existential threat that's being rubbed in our faces every day now about what could be a threat from North Korea in terms of some sort of a nuclear explosion. If we get past all of that, what a, I think, thrilling, exhilarating contemplation that we could get to a point where we could move point to point in this universe, not Euclidean geometry. In other words, we wouldn't have to be in spaceships going for months or years anywhere, that we would learn what the non-humans that come here seem to have already refined in spades, that they can bend space and time and move point to point to this universe. And that when people in science fiction have written about, you have a station that you can go to, and it's essentially like you put in the math of the coordinates in the universe where you want to be, and it has to do with resonance and frequency, and you move through something that is like a hallway to a door, and you open the door, and where you step over, you could be 5 billion light years from where you were in a whole new place. And that when I say these words, that still today to humans are science fiction, a strong part of me is convinced, from some physicists I've talked to confidentially, that that is possible in the physics that we're moving toward if we survive ourselves on Earth.
I want to thank you for spending this time with us in this holiday season. But before I let you go, Linda, I've got to ask. I need some secret info. Okay? Mm-hmm. Say yes, Jimmy. For you, anything.
I have to hear the question first.
Oh, come on. I would never. Is this? I was so excited to hear about Sony doing this series on Rendlesham. Yeah. So, who's playing John Burroughs?
Well, that is a good and interesting question, but that was a little bit unfair. They dangled this. It made it sound like it was already a go, but this is a concept at this point, and they're talking about that whatever they're going to do, the actual airing would not be before 2019. So we're at a very early stage, and Hollywood does this. The BBC can do this. This is where there will be something in the media, and they're talking about how they're going to do this concept or this book or this story.
Right.
And then they see what kind of reaction they get that helps maybe raise the funds that they need to actually do the production. And something like that seems to have happened around this. And I really hope that John and I and others that will be involved, because I think if they're going to do a production, I think it's called 11th Hour Production.
Right.
They should be working with the people who actually have the real experience and the real data. So I hope this is going to be a production that will go in that direction as opposed to just sci-fying a concept. And frankly, in all of the production work that I have done for so long, the real mysteries, the real world, the real universe is so far more interesting than doing it as science fiction.
Have they, are you saying that they haven't even approached any of the players like yourself or Burroughs or Peniston for consulting on this?
I don't think so.
Really?
John, yeah. And that's why I'm saying it's early, and it was like something that was dangled. And if they actually have every thing in place and that they've actually started production, that's the problem. Why would they do that without having the very people who have all of the information involved?
Oh,
it doesn't make sense to me.
I'm all bummed. I wanted to go read for a part.
Well, who knows? But when...
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just started to say that when it comes to the science fiction versus the nonfiction, I know that Hollywood and various producers, everything has to be sort of, they think, jazzed up to get audiences into the TV or into theaters. And I saw that happen on a feature film that was made about the animal mutilations going back to around the early 1980s. And it was a film called Endangered Species. Mm-hmm. And I went to see it. And it was so bad in the respect that they didn't even show the eerie, bloodless, trackless animal mutilations. They showed gore. And I thought at that time, why is it that people who are in Hollywood and other places, why is it that they can't literally take the real facts of phenomena and mystery? That is the part that is fascinating. And I think that if they could do something that really went to the facts as we know them about what happened in Rendlesham Forest and is constantly evolving to this day, Jimmy, that's one of the startling things. So many moving parts for December 26th to 28th and perhaps even a day or two after. There are so many moving parts of so many people. And the fact that John Burroughs cannot remember, for example, in December 26th, what happened after the blinding white light that Jim Peniston and John both remembered, and that John is the only person who was engulfed in light twice on 2 nights and seen by witnesses. And he cannot remember the details. That, to me, is part of the phenomena that we should explore even more. And that's what a lot of people don't have the patience for. And that's why you sometimes get fiction that overwhelms, I think, the true and real mystery nature of the nonfiction. So I don't know what will happen, but let's hope that they do try to tell as much of the truth as is knowable for whatever they're going to broadcast.
You know, 2017 was extraordinary on so many different fronts. I could sit here and name different things that have happened and so forth. But as exciting as it has been, what do you expect to see in 2018?
That is a show that John Burroughs and I are going to do with Grant Cameron on December 14th on Phenomena Radio, KGRA. That's exactly our question. And Grant, who has kept his fingers on the pulse of everyone from Tom DeLonge to other people working on the same issue of we're not alone in this universe and we need to get this headline around the world. We're going to discuss that for 2 hours on Phenomenon on a week from this Thursday. So I hope everybody will tune in, and I'm deflecting because I think that will be what Grant's insights will be worth paying attention to, because none of us know for sure, but every one of us is expecting, maybe with hope, but expecting that 2018 will be the pivot, that we are not alone in this universe. And Jimmy, when that happens, we have to do another show together.
Linda, thank you so much. Okay, and be safe out there. I wanted to ask you I wanted to ask you this earlier. We're gonna depart with this. You had brought up the mirror and Alice in Wonderland. Did you ever, when you go back to Paul Benowitz or any of the craziness back then through to today, have you ever questioned yourself too as well? That whole Alice in Wonderland thing, that maybe you took a step too far, or
no, because every step of my long journey in all of this has always been going to forensic evidence.
Right.
Going out and gathering tissue, gathering soil, gathering plants, interviewing firsthand eyewitnesses. I really do have the heart and mind of a journalist. And the thing I respect and what I'm always going after is the pressure of fact. Always have. And when you are in that mode all of the time, no matter what the drama is, there's something in me that always rebalances back to the left brain side of analysis. And that, I think, keep curiosity, but keep trying to establish hard forensic facts. It will keep you level. It keeps you going. You will find data that is quite mysterious. And anybody who has really seriously studied any of the animal mutilations can tell you that. Mm-hmm. And then you go into the deep, profound mystery of what is really happening in the human abductions. And that is like diving into an ocean that has no bottom. And that then says to me that the human abduction is a phenomena that is interacting with the alien presence, but that the reasons that the alien presence interacts with human beings with holograms, real holograms in rooms, with illusions, with deception, with all kinds of ways that in a sense are always like testing humans, probing humans, monitoring humans, that leave me thinking now as we move into 2018 that a truer concept about the relationship of Homo sapien on this planet to an alien presence is that we are closer to that which is on the petri dish. And I am trying to understand what is the eye that is looking down through the microscope on us. What does it want? Is it the projector in another dimension that is projecting a three-dimensional hologram that is our universe? And if that is true, then how big does this chess game go?
Right.
And those are the questions that stimulate me, excite me. I don't find anything in this that's frightening. And when Lynn Buchanan says that we have allies, that I hang on to, because on Earth there are enemies. There are enemies in human existence. So to learn that there might be enemies to certain kinds of life in the universe, it doesn't scare me. It doesn't depress me. It excites me to want to understand it all at the biggest level. And I can't imagine what could be more wonderful. And maybe that's part of the problem, that you have to go around in various cycles in order to learn the whole thing because it's so big. But my God, to live with the kind of excitement and explore the questions that we've talked about tonight, I can't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah, and when we look at things in its totality, not only with this bacteria on, the ISS or exoplanets or Alpha Centauri and fast radio bursts. I mean, these are crazy, exciting times. And then this new chamber at the Great Pyramid, right? To hear what is going on with that. and you throw in everything else, it seems like there is something about to blow up. The big D could be right around the corner.
Well, no matter which way it goes, if you look back through the lens of the avatars of history,
right,
it is as if the avatars have always, in different ways, but always said the same thing. Do not be afraid of death. It is only part of a cycle, and that the cycle has to do with getting the soul beyond concentration on the matter body into something else that is beyond our comprehension, but I think is worth trying to keep understanding in this life with the confidence that the cycle goes on, and that we are just scratching the tip of an iceberg of where we are on Earth now in comparison to where we would be in 100 years if we survive ourselves.
And we will. And Linda, survive Christmas, okay?
Thank you.
Have a great time.
Merry Christmas to you and to everybody. Thank you, Jimmy.
Absolutely. And we'll see you at the Conscious Life Expo in just 2 short months. Thank you so much, Linda.
All right. Later.
Linda Moulton Howe, everybody. Again, earthfiles.com. Start your day off right there. There is more knowledge on Earth Files than and I go there when it's funny, I've told Linda this way too many times. I go to Earth Files when I need material, and I do just that. Linda Moulton Howe, thank you so much. A true national treasure. This is Fade to Black. I'm going to take a quick break right here. You can follow Linda at Earth Files on Twitter. You can follow me at J-Church Radio. I'm going to take a break, come back, answer some phone calls and some other things. I'll be right back.
Here, and you are listening to my boy Jimmy Church on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter,
but listening to Jimmy Church will.
So you went to dinner last night, you had your favorite pasta. Ugh. Or maybe you had a heavy, spicy meal and it left you. Ugh. GetTheTea.com. Maybe you mowed down a huge steak and your plumbing is all plugged. Ugh. GetTheTea.com. Our super strength tea will take care of your occasional. Ugh. It's all organic and non-GMO. Get rid of ugh. We have so many great supplements, but our super tea is number one. GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When you take the beans from Central America with dashes of Indonesian and African mixed in and then roasted to the dark side of Fade to Black, you create the ultimate brew of fringe. Introducing the Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Yes, River Moon's darkest customized roast was created for the love of Fade to Black. The alchemy of masterful roasting and smoking the beans is in every sip of this full-bodied, dark Java. I need my coffee dark, deep, with distinct bittersweet chocolate highlights, just like the bunker. Leaning further into the darkness of the roast is Fade to Black blend from River Moon Coffee. Just click on the banner at JimmyChurchRadio.com and use the promo code F2BBLEND for 15% off of your order today. Gobekli Tepe.
Hey, can we talk about something serious for a minute? Your age. Getting old has its perks. But remember, being a few years younger, You know, your hair was thicker, you didn't have so many wrinkles, that extra weight wasn't haunting you, and you just felt better. Well, we can't turn back the clocks and go back 10 or 15 years, but you can start feeling and looking 10 or 15 years younger with Nature's Youth RSF. It's a doctor-formulated daily supplement that helps your body maintain its peak performance and fight the aging process. Imagine sleeping better, looking better, and feeling better. See how Nature's Youth RSF has helped thousands of people just like you at naturesyouth.com. naturesyouth.com. The holidays are coming. Imagine how it will feel when your family and friends are asking you what you did to look so good. Your secret will be Nature's Youth RSF. It's time to start looking better and feeling better. Learn more and order your Nature's Youth RSF at naturesyouth.com. That's naturesyouth.com.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRAradio.com.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. What's going on above the bunker? We'll find out. Crazy day here today. Glad we got through the show and these fires and what's going on here in Southern California. And our thoughts are with everybody out there who has lost their homes. This is the holidays. And all of the pets and the animals and things, you know, it's absolutely crazy here right now. And so there you go. I do want to thank Linda Moulton Howe for coming in tonight. A great conversation. I've got a few calls on hold. I will get to those in a second. But I wanted to kind of go back and reflect on a couple of things that we just talked about here. And one of them is this. And I've thought about this more and more lately. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago on the show. Rita and I were having a conversation one night, and this thought came out, and I mentioned it with Richard Dolan, and that is, seriously, planet Earth has got to be us here, us Earthlings. You know, we're the hillbillies of the universe. We have to be. And look at it like this. Seriously. Let's say, you know, you're ET and you're out there and you're cruising around and your boss comes in and says, "Okay, dude, we're going to send you on a scout mission. We're going to, send you over to Earth and check up on things over there." And you would be like, "Man, why? Why do I have to go to Earth? There's nothing there, right? Earthlings haven't done anything yet. They haven't. There's no interstellar anything. They barely made it to the moon. There's just nothing going. What? Why me? Why do I have to go?" That's probably the conversation, and so, dude, gets on his little ship and he has to do his scout mission, right? And he comes to Earth and he lands and he's walking around and, comes up to some physicist, some scientist or whatever, and they're walking around. And he's like, and check this out, man. Our technology. We've got cell phones. We've got the internet. We're doing things. And ET would just be like, "Man, just go away, little man. I have nothing to discuss with you." But we've built things. Have you seen our space shuttle? Go away, little man. You're bothering me. Think about that conversation with E.T. What would we impress E.T. with? What is it? Some total light being, intelligent thing that is here visiting us. What is it that we could impress them with? What have we done? Right? We light firecrackers and leave the planet. Oh, okay, we've got satellites. What is it? Fossil fuel technology. We don't have anything to impress them with. We don't have anti-gravity. We don't have time travel, right? We're not bending space. We're not traveling to the stars. We haven't done anything. Our communication on this planet, okay. Oh, we've got wireless technology. You know what? We have wires. Wireless is part of our wired communication network. We don't have teleportation, right? We don't have. What would we impress ET with? Think about that. Nothing, right? So, and I'm fat. So yeah, we're the hillbillies of the universe. We haven't gone to the next step of anything. I was watching last night. An amazing documentary on Voyager. Voyager 1 and 2 was just released, 2017 release. Great documentary. And it's fascinating. And you should go and check that out. Yeah, Carl Sagan and the gold record and what's on it and how we time the flyby in Jupiter so we can make it out to Neptune and Saturn and Uranus and all of that. Yeah, okay. And now they're outside of the solar system, our first interstellar craft. But that was 1977. This is 2017, 40 years later. What have we actually done? What would we impress ET with? What is it? What would we step forward with and say, we are your brothers? I mean, we have done this. We have taken the next step. And I'm not too sure if we have. It certainly wouldn't be the iPhone, will it? Would that impress ET? Right? A Tesla? A car? I don't think so. It's a fascinating thought. Are we somebody that they kind of laugh at? And I think so. Now, that's not to say that they aren't interested, of course, because there's life here. Sure, absolutely. Are they visiting? Sure, absolutely. They have to. This is a planet that has life on it. So there's that part. But as far as impressing ET with our progress, no. We're still killing each other here. We haven't figured ourselves out yet, right? So are we deserving of that communication? I'm not so sure. I'm just not. Let's go to the phones. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Who's calling?
Hey, Jimmy, how are you?
I'm doing good. Who's calling?
This is Michael from Point Doom.
Michael from Point Doom, California.
Yeah, we've said hi before.
Okay. What's on your mind, man?
A couple things. I'm just going to try to capsulize it so you can do and run with it. Always like to hear from Linda. It was kind of concerning to me that she was giving so much credit to global warming because she wasn't acknowledging the blue beam that's been going on to accelerate fires, always at night, always 80 miles an hour going on there. I do also agree with one thing about the projectors. That's why there's things going on with the sun and the moon that seem to be inconsistent and glitching. And as far as ETs, what have we done? It's not so much what we have done, but what we're trying to do that's been repressed by the powers that be. I think that's why they would give us credit, is because of the desired movement and consistent attempts to try to progress, even though that we are repressed, and we're trying to get around that somehow.
True. Okay, and I hear you. But let me ask you this. Do you have a bicycle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you think that bicycle would impress E.T.?
Maybe if I could do a wheelie and jump over a canyon.
You know what I mean? That's our technology. You know, that's our technology. I love bicycles. You know, they're fun to ride. But, you know, if you're ET looking back at us and they see, imagine if we went to another planet, right? And this advanced race is walking or riding a bike. You know, that's as fun. They haven't taken things to the next level. No matter what is repressed or no matter what is hidden, do we have anti-gravity technology going on at Area 51? Probably. But that doesn't mean that's how I am getting to the store sometimes. I ride a bike, you know, to go to a store, to spend money, to purchase things, to bring back to the domicile. You know what I mean? That's where we are in ET's eyes. You know, and that's what flips me out a little bit.
It shows a sentimentality that they don't have.
How so?
Well, you know, I don't think any AI could ever have the sentimentality of having something that wasn't exactly cutting edge or state of the art or in progression. What humans have that AI doesn't have in other organisms is that we have incredible emotions. And, you know, as far as Tesla, I'm surprised, and really I was so happy when they finally let Tesla get a 1/1 trillionth of credit by allowing the Tesla car. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty amazing, even though, you know, it's not in its perfect state. But, you know, there are some things that are very impressive about us. Unfortunately, most of them are used for destruction.
Well, that's true, Mike. But then there's this other aspect of us that I'm pretty convinced about. And that is this: 10,000 years from today, if we haven't blown up this planet, but 10,000 years from today, we're not going to be us. We're not going to have bodies. You know, we're going to be advanced beings of some kind, whether it's light or energy. Do you really think that we will be in this fossil fuel, carbon-based meat sack? I don't think so. So that's all of those things that you're referring to now, we're eventually going to let go of, I would assume. I don't think we'll be riding bicycles in 10,000 years. You know, we certainly won't be driving cars, and we will have taken things to the next level. So that's the way that I look at it. As much as I love a V8, you know, a vintage Ford Mustang burning gas and driving that thing around with a 4 on the floor, that's an exciting, exhilarating thing. But I'm not so sure that that's going to be part of our existence in 10,000 years.
I would agree with you, but this is one thing, too, and I'm not trying to play devil's advocate. I'm just stating what's real. I think that's why ET is so interested in us as well, is because there are things like maglev trains that go from coast to coast in 2.5 minutes. A lot of technology that we are not, as a whole, being allowed to use, not misuse, but help flourish and help the general sheeple that the government calls us progress. And I think that's why there's an interest in us so much, is because they want to help us. They want to try to help figure it out. And they actually do have some sort of interest outside of the emotionless AI type of stereotype that interests them. And that's probably why we've had our lives prolonged this far.
That, again, I'm with you on that. I mean, to have a positive view of things, that's the way that I look at life. I totally agree with you. And then there's the reality side of things is this. How would we possibly, I'm talking about a reality sense, how would we possibly communicate with something that was a million years, advanced from us? I mean, how would we possibly do that? In the same aspect of, if we went, if 100,000-year-old, if we went back in time and we're hanging out with Neanderthal, right? Cro-Magnon man. How would that communication go down? I'm not so sure that it could. You know, I think it
could. Pictures, motion.
I don't think so. I don't think that they could relate to us in any aspect. You know, we would be.
What about binary code?
You know what? We would probably give them heart attacks. I just don't know how that could possibly go down. The disconnect would be there. I don't know.
Maybe emotion.
Think about how trippy that would be. You know, or even, you know what? Forget about 100,000 years. What about 2,000 years? You know, you, with your intelligence, everything that you know about everything, and you were able to go back to 3000 BC, you know, and just whip out a Bic lighter out of your pocket, not a cell phone. You know, how about a Bic lighter? You would blow minds. You know, and so now if we look at it in the same way, how would we connect with that type of intelligence that would be, a million years? I don't know.
Well, I think, hey, Jimmy, it's like this. You'll hear with a lot of cases, and I also believe this very seriously. It's a common trait of what I believe to be truth, is that you'll hear that abductees or experiencers are shown photos, videos, pictures of this type. And I think that the visual, obviously, there's something that we are worth more than just being wasted people here on this planet, because they still show in a great deal of interest and are making attempts to try to give us help and give us pictures and trying to communicate. Or else, guess what? We'd be dust a long time ago.
Yeah, I totally, again, you make all the right points, Mike. And thank you for being the last call, the only call tonight. And we'll see you tomorrow night on the show. Thank you so much, Mike. Behave and be well.
Good luck to you in your house, and I hope that the fire doesn't do anything with you. And I promise, if you look into it, watch, we're going to have videos coming out that it's blue beam.
I'll talk to you. Thank you, Mike.
All right.
Have a great night. All right, well, that will wrap another episode of Fade to Black right here on the Game Changer Network. I do want to thank Linda Moulton Howe for coming in tonight and doing this once again this year on the show. And also, I want to remind everybody that tomorrow night, our guest is David Icke, live from London, England. We will be discussing his new book. It's going to be a great night. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Shows produced by Hilton J. Palm and Renee. Thank you to Dennis. Thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vitoa, Mark D. Kovar. Webmaster, Drew, The Geek. Music, Doug Aldrich. Intro, Spaceboy. SpaceboyMusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network, and syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2017 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Tomorrow night, David Icke. But until then, I want everybody to be safe. Go Beckley Tapping.